What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Historic Labs channel. This is the Journey to Launch Part 4, Logistics. So we're going to go over a little bit about logistics. Logistics encompasses other things that incorporate manufacturing as well, but in this video, we're going to focus on inventory management, customer service, making sure your product is live and ready to go to the customer, but we're going to touch up a little bit on wholesale and distribution. Let's get into it. In the Marine Corps, we had a saying for logistics: beans, bullets, band-aids, and bad guys. We're going to use that saying to go over a lot of the logistical stuff in here, except for the bad guys part, obviously, because we're not taking any prisoners of war here. The experience that I have with logistics has to do with I was the S4 Alpha for my battalion, and the S4 Alpha is the assistant logistics officer. So I had the opportunity to do a lot of logistics for almost 2 years towards the end of my time in the Marine Corps. And that taught me a lot, especially in the regulation side and preparing myself and my products for launch. And how does logistics incorporate into a supplement brand? You have website, and how does logistics incorporate into a supplement? And how does logistics incorporate into a supplement brand? You have your website, supplement stores, gyms, and distribution centers. So obviously you want to make your label look super nice. You want to make it look professional. When it comes to that, there's some companies, manufacturing companies, that do in-house labeling. However, there's other companies like graphic design companies and, label design companies that you can search for. We go with a company called Core Label out of Florida, and then they help bring these 4 labels to life. They also helped us with our creatine label and our beta-alanine label. And there's going to be a lot of important things when it comes to labeling, making sure you get the colors right, making sure you get a certain look that you want. Like there's, for example, like in our bottles, we have designs like in the background, but you obviously have to make them a little bit opaque so you can not take away from the actual look of the bottle. And then we have little things like the emblem, the logo, and the words, and then our little dragon here that's called raised varnish, where it brings the label a little bit up. So when your consumers are grabbing the bottle, they can feel the bottle. It adds and it gives to the experience of the user whenever you are actually making your label. So once you get the design and you have everything ready, so we shipped it from Core Label over to our manufacturer, Master Blends. Core Label's in Florida, Master Blends in Texas, and they ship it in these rolls. So your manufacturer either has like a machine that they just slap the roll on there, and then when it goes through the actual conveyor belt, it's just applying the bottle, cut, apply, cut, which makes it super easy. The cool thing about Core Label is that they give samples. That's very important when it comes to labeling. Samples are very important. Why? Because, first round of labels that you get, they might not be what you want. So, for example, for our creatine label, we use raised varnish on like the marbling, but when you got the bottle, it just didn't come out. So we're like, no, let's go back and let's take away the raised varnish from the actual like marbling of it, right? So just leave it matte look. Still have, the shiny logo with the little light that Kelsey put in the center, and then creatine, it like stands out. It just looks very professional and very good. And that's what you want. We did raised varnish on like the 5 grams, 60 servings, 300 grams per bottle. So this is something that like can sit on a shelf whenever you are pitching to distributors or gyms and supplement stores. You want to make sure that your product looks good sitting on a shelf where other consumers that are walking by, it just catches their attention. So we really focus a lot on the artistic side of our labeling. As you can tell, we use different cultures to represent our formulas, like the thermogenic here as the Chinese culture with the dragon, because last year was Year of the Dragon. That's when we launched the entire historic line. Then we move on to the Aztec one. We ended up putting the Aztec calendar on there. And just for my graphic design friends here that watch this, I actually went on Fiverr to get the vector for this because copying this was insane. And Kelsey was like, hey, it is going to take hours to do it. So we ended up just kind of outsourcing some stuff. All of the icons, though, on our bottles, we found things that relate to that culture. So it represents that culture. And, our 5 pillars. It represents the culture with our 5 pillars. One very important thing when it comes to wholesale and distribution is you want to make sure you have a barcode. So we have a UPC barcode. You can get a UPC barcode from GS1 US. Makes it super simple. You can get several barcodes or a single barcode. A single barcode is like $30 or so. And then, yeah, see, so initial fee. Actually, no, this one's different. Here, let me see. Let me click the single barcode. Okay, so single barcode is $30. And you can either do a single barcode or you could do several barcodes depending on what you need, depending on how many flavors and variants you have. What we did was I bought individual barcodes per product because I didn't have multiple flavor variants for each formula. So I needed 4 individual ones versus getting the entire suite for all the flavors that potentially will be coming out with either at the end of this year or into next year. When you click the several UPC barcodes, so it gives you 10, about from 1 to 10, 250, and then you have to pay a certain amount of fees, and it's like a subscription, which I wasn't going to do that. I just wanted an easy way to get one barcode for each product. So I bought 6 of them for 6 products, and it was an easy day. One important thing when it comes to adding the barcode to your labels, make sure that it fits, make sure that it's scannable. You can use like the scanner on your phone to test it out. You could always add the barcode later. However, when you get all your labels, if you get, let's say, for example, your MOQ's 500 and your first batch doesn't have any labels, you have to sell those obviously online, and you won't be able to sell it to, some supplement stores. It depends. If they don't care about, tracking their inventory by using barcodes, that's fine. You can still sell it to them. But these labels, you also have to incorporate labels into your lead times. So if your manufacturer, for example, has 10 to 12 week lead times, and let's say, for example, core labels, stumped, then you're going to have to come up, add that to your lead time. So you might have to tell the customer, 16 weeks. I would say always be safe when it comes to giving lead times. And if your customer, is asking, can we speed up the timelines? And those are conversations you're going to have with the people that make your labels and also your manufacturer, right? So it just depends. It depends on the situation and how you sell it and how you actually work through those conversations. And you're obviously going to get angry customers. You're going to get customers that don't care. You're going to get, customers that are overseas. So you also have to incorporate shipping. And with shipping, it depends how you ship products. If you're shipping, we ship, our boxes are 12 each for pre-workout, 24 for creatine and beta alanine. So we can ship more creatine with less boxes. It takes more boxes to ship pre-workout. You could buy bigger boxes too, just to send 100 pre-workout, to a customer in another country. But let's move on to packaging. Okay, packaging is important if you self-fulfill. If you have a drop shipping service, if you pay for that, that's fine. We decided not to pay for that because I wanted to be able to ship the product myself and have that control. And it just depends how you want to run your business model. Here, we use sticker mule to make the bubble mailers. Super easy. So we did the bubble mailers. We can fit a pre-workout and a creatine in the bubble mailer, but we usually send our boxes. So we ended up making some custom boxes on Alibaba, and Alibaba is super chill. You can get like 500 or like 1,000. I think I ended up ordering my first order. We did like 500, and it cost about $1.75, I think, per box, that's awesome. You can get probably cheaper ones, but it depends. The reason I say our boxes cost $1.70 was because you have to incorporate shipping. So if you do air shipping, that's expensive. If you do shipping by sea, that's cheaper, but then it takes longer for you to get them. It took us like 6 or 7 weeks to get our boxes, and that was because when I ordered them, it was like, I think 2023 January going into Chinese New Year. So they have a work break around Chinese New Year, so that slowed down the process. And those are just little things that you're going to have to learn over time, right? So if you're getting stuff from China, they have certain holidays that they take vacation from, and then you could ask for samples in some instances. It depends what you want to do and how expensive you want to get. Like, look at this one. This one's $1 to $1.25. It probably has a little magnet there. And this is like for luxury. You can look on there, custom boxes, 5 by 5 by 5 or whatever size you need. I suggest making a box for like worst case scenario. So the what I did with our box is I use 4 of these bottles. Can I fit 4 pre-workout bottles in one box? And that was our like kind of worst case scenario. Obviously, I can probably try to shove a shirt in there or one of our hats from our merch. But if anyone's ordering more than 4 pre-workouts, I'm gonna walk my happy ass over to USPS or UPS and buy a box specifically for them, because that's a big purchase, right? You can lose some margin off of going to go buy a bigger box for a customer that wants to buy your stuff. But our first thought process was worst case scenario. How many pre-workouts can I fit in this box? I can fit 4. So our box can fit 4. Our boba mailer can fit 1. With a creatine, we usually try to do, even if someone orders a bottle and a creatine, we do a box. The only time I use 2 things in the bubble mailer is, for example, like 2 creatine. 2 creatine fit there nicely. I usually tape the top just for extra stability. So you have your bubble mailers, you have your boxes. How do you ship them? You got to print labels, shipping labels. So you can easily get one of these thermal shipping label printers from Amazon. I mean, it just depends what you want to use. I ended up getting this one right here, the $79.99 one. Super easy. You could also buy the 4x6 labels too on Amazon. So here's the printer, $79.99, super easy. Different colors, just pick one. And then here are the labels. So I usually buy, I think I bought 2 500s the first time, and then we finally got 1,000 orders and I had to buy some more. So that was pretty chill. And then where do you buy the shipping labels? So you can buy the shipping, you can make an account, for example, you make an account on UPS and then they're going to give you a rate. And you could also make an account for FedEx. You can make an account for any type of shipping service. But to be honest, their prices are high. So if I was shipping in California, and I live in California, and let's say I'm shipping to like Northern California, it's going to be like $13 to $14 for shipping. You don't want to do that to your customer where they're paying $14 to $15 per shipping, or you're going to have to lower your margin and you're going to lose money, and it could deter people from shipping. So usually a lot of people will get deterred from shipping. Not all the time, but I would say a good chunk of the time they get deterred for shipping. So it's like you look at market value. So I judged our pricing off of, how much does it cost to ship across the country. It's cheaper in California, obviously, if you're shipping out of California. I also use this app called Shippo. So this app called Shippo, they get 89% off on USPS, 68% off, 87% off, 63% off. So they get pretty good deals when it comes to printing shipping labels, and you can connect this app directly onto your Shopify. So I recommend you use it. We've been using this for 3 years, and we've saved a lot of money on shipping. The only thing that sucks is if you're shipping a big order, buy the insurance. I made the mistake of not buying the insurance on a big order. The box got lost at UPS. I put in a claim. However, because I don't have the master account, they have the master account, and I didn't buy insurance, so that was on me. I fucked that up. Then I did not get paid back for the inventory. I only got paid back for the shipping label costs, and UPS reimbursed me $100. So that was a huge loss for me and a learning point for me as well. But I recommend using Shippo. Shippo's really good. There's a couple other apps that you can look for on Shopify.com, but it just depends what you need. I just think this one's really good. And then make sure to buy, a ruler, tape, and other things that you need to ship, besides obviously the boxes and the bubble mailers. You could even use Shippo to ship internationally. There'll be some options where you can input the address and change the country and ship internationally and just get a cheaper price. Like to ship to Australia, it would be cheaper with this than it would be, regularly. Like DHL, I think when I quoted it outside of Shippo, it was like $1,200, which your customer is going to lose a lot of margin, and you're going to lose a lot of margin by trying to front that. So Shippo gives a little bit better pricing when it comes to international. And then for international, you have to incorporate other things like VAT or value added tax, depending on the country. It also depends on the country's like customs and obviously their equivalency of FDA. Certain things aren't allowed in certain countries, or even levels of caffeine. Like if you have over certain levels of caffeine in your product, you can't send it to a country. So those are things to think about. Those are conversations to have with your customer, making sure that they know the regulations of their own country and you do your due diligence on your end. You don't want to run into a problem where your product doesn't get accepted, your customer wants the money back, you use the money to pay the deposit of the product. That didn't happen to me. I try my best to do my due diligence when it comes to something important as that, and also with that much money when you're sending 100, 200, 500 tubs across the sea somewhere. One important thing, let's move on to inventory, like how to manage your inventory. How do we manage our inventory is, every week, make sure that our numbers look good. That's just something I learned in the Marine Corps, making sure you have accountability of all your gear and equipment. Shopify does a good job at managing your product inventory. It only gets tricky when you have other selling platforms. So we're on Walmart online. Shopify doesn't connect to Walmart online. Shopify does not connect to Amazon, or I have not seen it connect to Amazon as a sales channel, right, on here. So when it comes to those two sites, we have to track inventory separately and separate it from other inventory we have in here for Shopify. So for example, like we have our Creatine on Walmart Connect, Walmart Online. So we go on the platform Walmart Connect and we uploaded 50 bottles of Creatine. And I subtracted it from our main inventory for online. And speaking of creatine and logistics, we actually have a shipment of creatine coming tomorrow, 500 new tubs, because we're running low. So you have to be able to even time your logistics too, depending on your throughput and output during, last month's or your current weekly goal and weekly mark that you're hitting every day and every week. The good thing about Shopify is it connects to TikTok, Instagram. So whenever you have sale on TikTok Shop or your Meta Shop or Meta Store, it automatically subtracts inventory from there. So those are easier to manage. We haven't got to a point where it's crashing our inventory. That's probably, if you have that happening, that's a good problem, right? Because it means you're getting a lot of sales. We haven't got there yet, but hopefully, cross my fingers, one day we're going to get there. So we'll see what happens at that point. But for now, using the sales channels and connecting your shops to shop is beneficial. Just make sure you're going to have to keep track of other inventory like in Walmart and Amazon. Your inventory also has expiration dates. So if you look at the bottom of the bottle, you have your expiration date. This one expires 3/26. So usually all powdered supplements have a 2-year expiration date from date of manufacturing. So that's always good to know. That allows you to make sure you remember to sell before the 2 years. It gives you a 2-year leadway to just, keep grinding and try to sell out on your products. Our first batch, right? Our first product, Mount Olympus pre-workout, we had 3 flavors. We sold out of the Zeus, which is blue raspberry lemonade. We only had about 12 bottles of the Poseidon left. So I ended up just getting rid of those because I'm not going to sell expired stuff. And then the Hades, we ended up having a little bit more. And I think mainly because people started to love this historic line over the Hades, and Hades sales slowed down tremendously once we launched the historic lineup. So I think I ended up losing like 18 bottles or so, which isn't too bad. I got 300 of each and we got rid of them. And I got 500 of each of these, our first batch. So we're making a little headway. We're trying. Last topic for this video is going to be customer service. And how does that incorporate to logistics? So you got to make sure you have a good shipping policy and a refund policy. Those two are very important because you will get customers asked. You will get, situations that happen. UPS or USPS can destroy packages. It's happened to us where, a package gets to a customer and it's been ripped open. Things have been taken out. We could file claims with USPS, but they take 4. So sometimes you just have to send product again to the same customer, and you eat the cost of that, right? Or if the product came damaged, ask for pictures, make sure it's in your policy, and you'll be able to either refund the customer or send the product again. Email responsiveness is very important when it comes to customer service. Who's going to be responding to customers, at what time of the day, or you're going to automate it or have like a chat box on your website. We don't have any chat box on our website or no AI right now. I respond to all customer inquiries either via the contact form or email, and or if people reply on their shipping confirmations. Also keeping track of wholesale emails and traffic. So with wholesale emails and traffic, making sure you are looking at your inventory and you're planning out for certain wholesale purchases. We had a purchase for a little bit under 100 bottles that comes out of our inventory here. When it comes to 500 bottles or more, that's when you're having the conversation with your manufacturer, making sure that they have the capabilities to ship for you as well. Master Blends is super nice. They're super cool. They can ship to customer, and give you a copy of bill of lading. They could also ship to your Amazon fulfillment center too. So if you do like Amazon FBA, then they could ship directly, make a pallet or cut up whatever amount you want to go to the FBA. We do self-fulfillment for Amazon as well right now, just because I don't have the volume on Amazon to, I think, benefit us by doing the FBA. They also take a lot of percentage with the FBA. The FBA is cool because you get the 2-day Prime advantage versus like if I get an order today from Amazon and I ship it out, it's like 3 to 5 business days, depending on which shipping label we purchased to try to get it to the customer. Speaking of wholesale and distributors and making sure our inventory is adjusted and or set apart for them, I use QuickBooks for invoices. You could also use like Chase Bank Online for invoices. You can use Stripe, you can use Square, you can use Shopify, but QuickBooks makes it easy just because this is my platform to track all expenses and purchases that happen in my business. So I just do QuickBooks Online. It's super easy. It keeps track of everything. And you could also send documents with your invoices. So I always send, the wholesale terms and conditions when it comes to the invoices, and the customer is able to read all that. You can use, credit card, debit card, bank transfer on QuickBooks. Makes it very, very easy for the customer. You just got to be careful with when it comes to credit cards, because they can file fraud and then you lose the money. Your account gets flagged and then you end up losing the product too. And that happened to us with my first wholesale purchase. Somebody reached out. We ended up sending them the invoice. They paid via credit card, sent them the tubs, and then they reported fraud, and I couldn't fight it. I sent in all of my documentation, the email back and forth, and QuickBooks said, sorry, get fucked. And then they took the money back, and I lost all the inventory. So you can also do obviously like a signature page where you can send them a document for them to sign where they agree to purchase, said inventory, and they're going to pay via whatever. So you can do that as well. And that's worked out for us. So I've been doing that. Well, that sums it up for this video. Super easy, super chill. Make sure you have your label stuff correct. Have conversations with your manufacturer. Great customer service. Buy your thermal printer. Make sure you have your packaging set. You could always do you don't have to get creative with your packaging. You could literally do just regular bubble mailers or regular boxes. We just like to put a little bit more effort into our stuff. We're more intentional with what we're trying to do here. Well, that sums it up for this video. Check out the description below. Use code HISTORY for 10% off. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more historic content.